Welcome to Director's Notes.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
We featured a film you acted in, so it's Roxy Rizvani's photo
Photo
booth.
booth. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I was watching that the other day, just doing some research. So it's lovely now to have you as a writer-director.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So we're here to talk about Yellow. Tell us a bit about the film.
Yellow is about a woman in Kabul who walks into a Chadari store to buy her first full body veil, the burqa, that is synonymous with the Taliban and with Afghanistan. And she's buying it at a time when the Taliban have come into power and the future of women is unknown. And that's what the film hopes to deal with.
So one thing that struck me is this film, very female-centric, but it's from the perspective of a man.
Hmm.
Why did you decide to do it that way?
Well, it's interesting because I got asked at a Q&A about this exact same thing where a woman had said, how did you manage to write from a perspective of a woman so well? And I said, I didn't. I wrote from the perspective of a man because as an Afghan man, as a man in general, it pains me to see that our women or women in general are being oppressed. Their right to an education is being taken away from them. Their right to freedom is being taken away from them. There are 20 million women in Afghanistan who have no access to education or basic human rights. And as a man, I feel the pain as well, you know? So I wrote it from the perspective of a man because I feel like there are brothers, fathers, sons who feel the pain in Afghanistan or and abroad like me.
Yeah, of course. I think it makes it all the more poignant as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
It really does highlight what's going on.
Mm,
I love that. So it's a really obviously serious and incredibly moving story, but you've got moments of levity. You've got,
mm.
the music at the beginning, and then you've got her dancing. Why were those elements in there for you?
Well, I often find as a filmmaker that when you're tackling such big issues in your films and you're looking at such a huge mountain to speak about, the worst thing you can do is talk about that issue. You need to take, in my opinion, I'm a big fan of taking little moments, little pieces of life and kind of just pulling it out and dissecting that. And you'll find that in the smallest parts of life, or the smallest moments of life, a lot of the human condition is present. It doesn't have to be this grand, big, epic scale of, oh, I'm talking about this topic. No, it's just take a little moment, an interaction between two people, for example, in a shop. That will encompass everything that I want to talk about. And it's interesting and it's good to watch. It's entertaining to watch. It's funny. It's not violins and all doom and gloom because people are in Afghanistan, they are funny. They are charming. They make a life out of what they have, you know? So it's not completely like that, yeah.
Yeah. No, because at the heart of the story, it's just this beautiful sort of human connection
Exactly.
between these two people.
Yeah. These two people who basically bound by their own different restrictive regimes, there's like a invisible wall between them almost. Like you've got the Talib shopkeeper who's bound by this thing that these doctrines, and you've got the woman who's oppressed by this guy. But in another world, they could have been lovers or friends. Do you know what I mean? There's chemistry. They laugh together, but it juxtaposes against the backdrop of the position of women in Afghanistan now as second-class citizens.
Yeah. I like that as well. You mentioned, they could have been friends because there is that chemistry between them, but it's not like an obvious romance thing.
Yeah,
I think it is just a beautiful, like you can imagine them going out for a coffee together or just,
yeah.
connecting and him, her teaching him more English words. I thought
Well,
that
it's
was
just
really
human
beautiful.
interaction. It's just human interaction, isn't it? If you go to the darkest places in the world, and the most oppressed places in the world, there are still people who interact. It's part of life, and there are still jokes being thrown around. There's still humor. There's still wit. There's still life. You know, and that nuance is quite interesting to me, which is what I tried to do with Yellow.
Yeah. Yeah, it works really well. The interior. So I read that was shot in London.
That's right. Yeah, shot in Hackney.
Yeah, how did you bring that authenticity? Because you wouldn't have known. Like if I hadn't read it, I would have had no idea.
Well, because I'd been to Afghanistan a few months ago and I was looking around at the Chadari shops and I realized that they're all quite small units. The Chadari shops are quite small and they're all just blue veils hanging down. So I got some veils from Afghanistan. I got about a handful of veils, which I actually forgot on the day of shoot. We had one we had a 1 day shoot and I left my house and landed on set. It was an hour away and I get a call that I'd left the veils behind. The main thing that the film was about, we forgot the bloody thing. So we're always running late on the day. We're about 2 hours late constantly. Um, but I mean, look, this was a 1 day shoot. We made it for £3,000, and it's kind of made with so many restrictions and so many budgetary constraints that we had to find creative ways to do it. We had to, we had to find creative ways to shoot it, creative angles to find it, so that we don't give away that we don't have that much money. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, it's the magic of short film, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
talking about the angles, because it's obviously such a tight little space and so
Mm.
confined. What equipment did you have and cameras and lighting?
Oh, we had basically absolutely no lighting. We were using the light, so we had just a bounce and a black foil to direct the light from above. So the shop had its own ceiling lights that we just optimized and used that. My really wonderful DOP, Yanis Mandalopoulos, who I've collaborated with on many occasions, he's made it look beautiful, you know. And we were shooting on an Alexa. We shot on Alexa, but it was a minimal setup. It was a complete. It was everything was minimal. We had probably around 8 people on set. Like this, we didn't have that many people. It was just a project of love. You know, it was just me and my friends. We got together to make this little film. So
Yeah. And lots of close-ups in that
yeah,
tiny space. Yeah.
yeah.
Why were you focusing on her as a director and on these real intense close-ups?
Well, oftentimes I find that the shots that you use in your films are half of the story. They are a tool that helps the viewer see the story from a certain perspective. If you have a scene where you use a different shot, it'll have a different connotation, a different feeling to if you use a different lens or a different lens choice or even different production design. Everything is a choice, which is why sometimes being a director can be so difficult because everything you do is you inviting that choice in, you know? And I was very conscious to let the audience in to hurt Laile's feelings at a certain point in the film where they go in closer to try and be there with her. And especially with the last shot of the film where we actually in the veil, spoiler alert, but we're actually in the veil with her. So these are all choices I made to try and immerse the audience into this experience that women are having every day and have been having since 2021. There's no education, there's just no freedom. And I just can't stand for that, you know, as an artist. I need to make something about it, which I have.
Yeah. That last shot is so powerful because she mentions she's like, "Oh, this one doesn't work. I can't see," and
Yeah,
well, yeah, and you're like, "Well, they're all like that," and then you
absolutely.
see through it, and I mean, I was just there, and I was like, That's impossible. How are you supposed to? I mean, I'm someone who falls over at the best of times, and you just your vision is just so
Yeah.
close. It's terrifying. I thought that was beautiful that you put that into the film.
Thank you so much. And it just goes back to trying to step by step put the audience into the shoes of an Afghan woman. Um, and what, because I've worn one, I've watched my mum wear one. I wore one just to try and see what it's like. And you literally can't see anything, you know? And because you don't have periphery, that's
Yeah,
really interesting.
yeah,
Your peripheral vision doesn't exist. So by peripheral, I don't just mean the sides, I mean down below you as well. So usually when you're walking, you can see if there's a stone or a pebble and you automatically move away from it. But with that, you can't. So you trip up a lot.
yeah.
Um,
It's terrifying.
yeah.
So your actress, excuse my pronunciation,
Afsaneh Dehrouyeh, that's right.
Afsaneh, yeah. So you've worked with her before.
That's right. We did a film together, my first ever short film actually, where we were both in it together called Our Kind of Love, which is on YouTube. We worked on that, we collaborated on that, and she's always been a constant collaborator, a very talented actress. and someone who I have a shorthand with, who understands, I understand her language, she understands my language, my our creative languages. So it was a no-brainer, you know.
Yeah. And how has your process developed as well? Because obviously you've gone from loads of roles, in front of the camera, acting.
Yeah.
Now you're doing both. How do you manage all of that?
I think it's really interesting because it kind of helps me become quite all-rounded in the sense that I can see both behind and in front of camera. And when I'm in front of camera, I can see, I can expect what behind the camera is expecting. And when I'm behind the camera, I can sympathize with what the actors in front of me are expecting and how I can approach them. And just my language and my method in speaking to actors has helped just because I'm an actor myself, you know, so I know how to speak to my actors and how to convey that thing that's in my head to their head.
Yeah,
And also to trust them to use their own craft and to to open the floor to them as well, because the reason they are there is because they're good actors. So I trust them to, just like I would love a director to do the same with me, to trust my own artistic instincts in front of camera. I do the same for my actors.
yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously you've got your BAFTA nomination, which is
Right.
huge. And
Yes, thank
this
you.
film is talking about such an important subject matter.
Hmm.
What do you hope that this nomination will do that, highlight this issue?
Well, it's really interesting because the West has a very short-term memory, and I feel like the Afghan women have slowly become more and more invisible from modern from the news cycle, and it's almost like because they don't exist in everyday news, it doesn't happen. So my aim with this film is, and always has been, for that to shine a light on what's happening back home, to say, guys, look, this thing is still happening. These women still need our help. This is an opportunity for the international community, the political community, to engage the Taliban and say, look, guys, you guys are trying to build a government. You guys are trying to build an infrastructure for the country, and you want to be recognized by the international community. So you can start trade with us, and you can start communications, and you can start tourism, whatever it might be. But we can't recognize you until you recognize your own women. And that's what I hope comes out of this. I hope there's a political dialogue between the government of Afghanistan and the wider community who have a responsibility to help those Afghan women.
Yeah. Have you had any pushback about the film?
I have had some messages from people who have, I mean, they're all different opinions, and I'm open to that, but nothing on an official scale at the moment because the film hasn't been released on a wider scale yet. But I mean, pushback is always a good thing because that means you're doing something right, you know? So I hope that something positive comes out of this, and there is a difference to Afghan women.
Yeah. I think, it's important to start a conversation, and film is a great vehicle for that.
Absolutely, film changes lives, it changes times. And it's also a great record of of the times we live in as well.
Yeah.
And it's a shameful record right now that 20 million women have are stranded at home. There were 3,000 doctors who were meant to join the Afghan National Health Service, and the board examinations were cancelled. So that's 3,000 doctors that aren't in the system anymore. They're just at home doing nothing. That's wasted potential
Yeah.
for a country that needs all the help it can get after 40 years of war and counting.
Yeah.
You
No,
know, it's a country where in my lifetime the flag has changed 19 times. In the 21st century, no other country has ever gone through that. It's unheard of. That's 19 times the flag has changed because of countries coming in and powers coming in and collapsing and empires coming in. It's just there's no stability in this time that we push for something like that, you know?
mm. Well, hopefully, I mean, this nomination, and like you said, getting films out to the wider world, the more people that see it, I think, as well, film are a great vehicle for people who
Yeah,
might not be able to explore these issues or might not know about them. Then watch this kind of film, and then they'll research it, and then it builds
yeah.
that awareness.
Well, I hope so. Here's to hoping, you know. We can try, build, and hopefully they come. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And so I read you're developing, is it Our Kind of Love into a feature?
that's right.
How's
Yes.
that going?
That's getting really great, actually. I'm developing that with the BFI, who have been very kind and very generous to help support the development process, and also because the BFI is such a great infrastructure in British cinema. It's very I'm very lucky to be working with them and to have them on board to try and elevate this film and make it the best it can be. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. No, we're really lucky to have the BFI here in
Yeah,
England.
absolutely,
What
absolutely.
about shorts? I know you've got a love of shorts. You developing
I
anything else?
I do. Well, actually, I'm in the edit for another short film. I do want to move away from shorts for a little bit. Not forever. I think it's something that I kind of cut my teeth on, and it's something that'll always be special in my heart. But I'm developing a short film called There Will Come Soft Rains, and this is about climate change. And it's about a girl who is so haunted by rising sea levels that she decides to dig up her dad's grave to try and move him to high ground. So it goes again with, if you want to make a film about something, don't make it about that thing, especially if it's a big thing like climate change. Make it about a little thing, which is
Yeah.
what I try to do. So
Nice.
yeah,
Well, best of luck with everything.
thank you so much.